Arthur liked lists. He listed groceries, anxieties, even passing thoughts about the weather. Must buy more biscuits, one entry read, sandwiched between existential dread discuss with therapist, and clouds look like badges today. Arthur, you see, was a journaler, not the travelogue kind, mind you. His journal was a confessional booth, a therapist's couch, and a jury all rolled into one leather-bound volume. It started innocently enough. A friend, citing the benefits of self-care, suggested journaling. "Pour your thoughts out," she'd said. "It's cathartic." And it was at first. Arthur scribbled away his anxieties, his frustrations, the general malaise of existing in the 21st century. His pen became a pressure valve, releasing the steam of daily life. He felt lighter, freer. He even wrote a smug little entry about how journaling was the best decision he'd ever made. Oh, the irony. Because Arthur, bless his organized soul, took things too far. He began documenting everything, not just feelings, but every interaction, every perceived slight, every awkward silence. His journal became less a tool for self-reflection and more a weaponized record of, well, of Arthur. Journaling, the internet promised, was a panacea. Anxiety, journal. Writer's block, journal. Existential dread from realizing the universe is indifferent to your existence. Journal, journal, journal. It was the Swiss Army knife of self-help, touted to solve all that ailed the modern soul. And there's truth to it, of course. The act of writing, of externalizing thoughts, can be incredibly therapeutic. It allows us to process emotions, identify patterns in our behavior, and gain a better understanding of ourselves. For some, it's a lifeline, a way to make sense of the chaos in their heads. But like any tool, journaling can be misused. In the wrong hands, a hammer builds houses, but it can also crack skulls. And Arthur, dear obsessive Arthur, was holding a metaphorical sledgehammer. He started carrying his journal everywhere. Work meetings became opportunities to jot down passive-aggressive observations about colleagues. Dates were dissected in minute detail, every stammer and nervous laugh recorded for posterity. Arthur, the once charmingly awkward introvert, became a walking, talking surveillance camera, analyzing and judging everyone, himself included, through the lens of his trusty notebook. His relationships, unsurprisingly, began to suffer. Friends grew wary of his constant note-taking. Dates ended with awkward silences as Arthur, lost in thought, scribbled furiously in his journal. "Is this about me?" one particularly perceptive woman had asked, her voice laced with a mixture of amusement and horror. Arthur, of course, had written down the interaction verbatim, analyzing her tone and body language for hidden meanings. He didn't see the problem. Journaling, in his mind, was making him a better person, more self-aware, more insightful. He failed to realize that self-awareness without self-compassion is a recipe for disaster. Section 4. When self-reflection becomes self-obsession. Arthur's journal became a hall of mirrors, reflecting back distorted images of himself and everyone around him. Every interaction, every perceived flaw was magnified under the harsh scrutiny of his pen. He became obsessed with analyzing his past, dissecting every mistake, every awkward encounter, as if searching for some hidden explanation for his present unhappiness. He was, in essence, trapped in a self-imposed echo chamber of his own negativity. The journal, meant to be a tool for growth, had become a cage, reinforcing his insecurities and anxieties. He was so busy documenting his life that he forgot to actually live it. It was during one such late-night journaling session, surrounded by stacks of notebooks filled with his own neuroses, that Arthur stumbled upon a YouTube channel called Man of Thoughts. Section 5. The Journal as Judge and Jury. The channel, run by a man who identified himself only as M, was a strange mix of philosophy, dark humor, and oddly comforting nihilism. Arthur, initially put off by the channel's bleak outlook, found himself drawn to M's words. Here, finally, was someone who understood the existential dread that he'd been pouring into his journals for years. He started incorporating M's philosophies into his journaling, his entries taking on a darker, more cynical tone. The journal became less a confessional and more a courtroom, with Arthur as both defendant and prosecutor. Section 6. Finding Solace in the Shadows, the Man of Thoughts. Arthur's story is, in many ways, a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most well-intentioned self-care practices can become detrimental if taken to extremes. It's a story about the dangers of self-obsession, the seductive allure of negativity, and the fine line between self-reflection and self-sabotage. But it's also a story about the search for connection in a world that often feels isolating and absurd. Arthur, lost in his own head, found solace in the words of a stranger on the internet. A stranger who, ironically, encouraged him to stop dwelling on his thoughts and embrace the liberating emptiness of existence. And who knows, maybe that's the point. Maybe the man of thoughts, whoever he is onto something. Maybe the best way to deal with the darkness isn't to analyze it, dissect it, and record it in excruciating detail, but to simply acknowledge its existence and move on. Section 7. A double-edged sword. Journaling, like life, is a balancing act. It's about finding the sweet spot between self-reflection and self-acceptance, between acknowledging our flaws and celebrating our strengths. It's about using the written word as a tool for growth, not a weapon of self-destruction. So by all means, journal. Pour your heart onto the page. Explore the darkest corners of your mind. But remember to come up for air every now and then. Remember that the point isn't to punish yourself for your past mistakes, but to learn from them and move forward. And if you ever find yourself spiraling down the rabbit hole of self-obsession, remember Arthur. Remember that sometimes the best thing you can do for your mental health is to close the notebook, put down the pen, and step away from the mirror. Or, you could always embrace the void. The man of thoughts might just have a point.